to YTC on the go. Today we're going to do something we haven't done for a little bit, and that is kind of talk about some tips and tricks. So today we're going to talk about earning some airline miles, and so we're going to focus on American Airlines just because that's what we're working on. So I'm going to go through some of the steps that we do when we're getting ready to do a trip. So to get us started, we're going to bring up on the computer the search engine for AA.com, and we're going to talk about some of the steps that I do to go through and figure out where we want to go, what we want to do. So we're going to talk about some of the trips. So I'm just going to pick one of the airlines, American Airlines hubs right now. So we're going to use Dallas, Fort Worth. And let's say I want to go to Europe. So I want to go to London, Heathrow. It's probably most likely where I'll go. But I would pick London, all airports, just so that I have all of the selection criteria. I'm just going to pick some dates early next year, just to kind of see some price comparisons. So I've done February 22nd to March 15th, and we'll just kind of see what happens. So make sure that you click that awards mile location. And then it comes up with some of the options that we have. So you'll see out here that it looks like it's going to take about 52,000 and a half miles. One of the things that I always do is uncheck the box for British airline taxes are very expensive. So I'll uncheck that just to make sure that I'm getting the cheapest option. The next thing that I'll do is I'll go into the calendar. And when I click on the calendar, this will let me know if there's any other cheaper award mile tickets. So it looks like for all of February, we're really good on the outbound flight. On the return flight, we'll click over there. When we see those options, it looks like based on the award chart, it goes down about 7,500 miles if I come home the day before. So definitely something to look at. We will see, I'm going to, when I flipped it, I got quite a few more expensive taxes. My taxes went quite a bit higher. When you fly from the UK, the taxes are very expensive. So I'm going to switch it to like Madrid and come home to Dallas, Fort Worth that way. So when I switch it to Madrid and choose my date, I am going to pick the 14th because we saw that for the European flights, it looks like it was cheaper coming home the day before. So I am going to flip it to the 14th and kind of see what happens. So as it's loading through here, we'll see I'm still at 45,000 miles, but we see the ticket price also dropped on the taxes quite significantly. So it was somewhere in the $400 range per ticket. Now it's down to $50 per ticket. So that's $350 per ticket. So that's a savings for the 5 of us of almost $1,750. That is crazy. So that's one of the things that we do when we're searching for tickets. One of the other things that I do is look for the total overall price. So I'm just going to kind of pick a couple of the flights that look the best. Because you'll notice here, for the same flight that's about 20 minutes later, it's going to cost me 65,000 miles instead of 45,000 miles. And I don't care where I connect through. It makes me no difference. So for me, this is the flight that I would want to take. It's 45,000 miles. There are 5 of us, so that's a lot of miles that I've got to coop. And then the taxes for each of our tickets is going to be about $60. So $60 times the 5 of us, we're going to pay about $300 round trip in taxes, which I think is perfectly acceptable for 5 trips to Europe. I'm perfectly fine with paying that. I've had it cheaper. We've got down all the way down to $38 a ticket. And when I really get serious about it, I might change my airports a little bit to work in my favor. Because once you're in Europe, there are options that you can take, whether they cheap airline carriers or whether trains, etc., buses. There's also options. So I'll kind of play that down just a little further. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to see how much it would be if I actually purchased my tickets. So I am going to pick the economy option for right now, just to price check on the lowest ticket setting for similar flights. So there is one similar return that's just a little bit cheaper. It looks like it'll be about $30 cheaper. And I'm going to go ahead and pick the one just because it's $20. I'm just going to pick the one that's closest to what we would take just for a good price comparison. So at this point, what I'll do is I'll get the total price and what it would cost for tickets, as well as in airline miles, just to kind of see what I'm looking at as to the savings and the total. So I'll click all of that together. So when I do the entire price here on choosing my flight options, it looks like it is about $1,819.55. So what I then look at is the best way to get those miles. So there's always credit card rewards, which we use quite substantially, but I'm actually not going to talk about those this time. What I want to do is talk about how to get miles for reward tickets without using credit card rewards. And I'm going to focus really, otherwise this video would be horrendously long. I'm going to really focus on savings accounts. There are two different savings accounts that you can get some bonus award miles. So the first one is the Citi Bank. If you do have American Airlines, you can get an American Airlines savings account, and if you put at least, there's different reward categories out there as to the number of miles that you get per account that you set up. So for us, we only selected one owner on it. So my husband was the owner of the first one, and then I will set up a separate savings account, and I'll roll the money into that one so that we get 20,000. If I put $10,000 in it, we'll get 20,000 miles. We are earning interest still at the account, but it is very minimal. So over the 6 months, 5 or 6 months that we had it in there, he earned $3 really on 10,000, which is a horrendous rate. So we put the $10,000 of cash over there. I like to kind of spread out our emergency cash and stuff it around because I do want it to be FDIC insured. I don't want to play the market with it because it's our emergency savings, but I do want it out of our main checking account most of the time. And so this allows us to put that money to work for us and gaining miles. So there are rewards. If you have more cash, you can get more. I think that was the lowest tier. So that is kind of what we did. The other option for savings that we do is using Bask Bank. So you can see on a Bask, you can earn using American Advantage miles. And so far, other than just taking a little extra time, it does take a couple of days to do transfers, unlike the next day availability for some of the other automated savings, but they are FDIC insured. There is a calculator out there where you can say, this is what I want to start with, this is how much I'm going to deposit. So there's a savings calculator as to how many American Airline miles that you can earn. So for me, let's say if I need 45,000 miles, maybe I put $45,000 in there and I don't add any extra deposits. So that's going to get me 45,000 miles per year instead of interest. So they will not be paid interest. That is essentially the interest on the account. The other thing to notice on a Bask savings account is that it is a single owner account. So that means you can have a beneficiary, but you can't have a joint ownership in Bask. So my husband would have one account and I would have another if we both wanted to set it up under our names. So we do currently have a Bask Bank American Airlines account, and it was really easy to sign up. So when you click the sign up button, you fill in your information, they send you a lot of text messages, they do a lot of confirmations and security checks to make sure that it is set up correctly and that you are who you say you are. So once it is set up, you get the deposit every single month in interest. So they divide it all out for you and they'll tell you about the calculation. But essentially for every dollar that's in there, you get one American Airline mile per year. So in a 12-month period, you'll get 12 deposits that total up to that value. If you change the amount in there, of course, you get less for that month. So it works really similarly to interest. You will have to pay taxes on whatever they're considering the value of these points to be. I'm not sure exactly for this year. This is our first year of doing it, so I haven't seen our tax statement yet to see how that really affects us. However, I'm not overly concerned about it with interest rates so low. I don't think that they can, tell you it's a whole awful amount. One of the positives with the Bask savings account is that our American, one of the benefits of having a Bask savings account is because they deposit each month, we are having activity in our American airline rewards, and so we don't have to worry that our miles are going to expire because we are getting that credit every single month, as you see here. So I don't have a whole lot in Bask right at the moment because we were working on other things. So I put them in other locations. You can always check and see the other award options to earning American airline miles, but we really want to focus on the savings because we needed a place to put our emergency savings. And so for us to put our emergency savings in an FDIC insured account and where we could earn American airline miles instead of the piddly amount of interest that most banks are giving, it really was beneficial for us. So that means for the year, if I have $45,000 in Bask, which means one free ticket to Europe, return trip ticket to Europe, I would have to take the $820 and I would subtract the $60 because I have to pay that in taxes for my ticket. I'm getting a benefit of $760. And so if I divide that by my 45,000 airline miles that it takes me to get when I look at my handy calculator here, that tells me that I'm earning 1.68% essentially on those award miles to Europe. So if I'm going to use them, I get a whole lot more benefit out of putting my $45,000 in Bask and earning those American airline miles than I do depositing that $45,000 in my checking account and earning 0.01 or 0.08 or whatever it is. This is a really good way to move your emergency savings out of your main checking account and earn American airline miles on them for a future trip. So they are beneficial in our case, and the reward redemption is relatively high. I've seen it much higher. The more that you search and the more that you look through, you can really find some good reward redemptions for the same 45,000 miles where the ticket price is higher. Click like and subscribe, and your adventure is right around the corner.